Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today what I want to talk about is the little things. Now, a lot of people have a lot of complaints about the TTC, and most of these complaints I think are kind of misplaced. See, the TTC is chronically been underfunded for decades at this point, and a lot of things like aging signaling, bad infrastructure, etc., they just can't reasonably be expected to be on top of because they just haven't had the money. Now, that being said, there's a lot of things the TTC just doesn't do very well, and there's a lot of small solutions that they could apply to try to fix things. Some examples of this are uncomfortable buses and poor AC, or poor route planning, or bad communication, bad wayfinding. These are all small things, but they're things that other agencies do far better, even in North America. So it's actually very positive that I've been seeing some small changes on the TTC. So there's a couple of them I want to point out. The first one is, I noticed the TTC is using some plastic ties on the Yonge line, just north of Bloor-Yonge. Now, I haven't actually heard anything officially from the TTC about this, but it's actually very interesting to see them trying these. The TTC currently uses primarily wood ties in that area. I don't believe I've seen any concrete ties. And while the wood ties and the concrete ties are okay, the plastic ties, especially if they're made from recycled plastic, as some of the ones used in New York are actually much better for the environment, and I believe they actually can provide a slightly better ride for the vehicles. So seeing the TTC actually using that and being maybe a bit progressive in what they're doing and how they're planning is very nice to see. It's the same way the TTC doesn't often go out of their way to do things that seem obvious and common sense. Things like having subway trains that actually take up more of the platform, considering that Line 1 currently doesn't have enough capacity, would be another thing. Nonetheless, something else that they're starting to do is put down platform door indicators. So while we don't have platform screen doors, they actually put down some indicators on the platforms at Bloor-Yonge to show where the doors would be, to see if that would help with people's boarding. Unfortunately, like many things on the TTC, this is kind of a flawed approach, given that without ATC at Bloor-Yonge, the trains can't really align properly, and so it kind of sucks. And when the TTC kind of botches this, people are going to have a negative impression of it because, wow, these indicators don't actually properly indicate the doors, and then people won't like it even when ATC is implemented. That being said, it doesn't really make sense to me that they have deployed this at Bloor-Yonge when there's plenty of stations that do have ATC, pretty much the whole Spadina line, where they could deploy this right now. I mean, they're essentially giant stickers. I cannot imagine they are that expensive to deploy across a station. You need 48 of them per station. So they're not platform screen doors, they're decals they put on the platform. So they could put them into plenty of platforms, and maybe they have to replace them every few years. It's not going to be a huge cost, but it would be probably a major efficiency improvement in terms of platform crowding and reducing dwell times in stations. And it's just shocking to me that the TTC doesn't think to do this in stations where there actually is ATC. I'm aware that they trialed it, at least at York University. I'm not sure if they still have the indicators, but it doesn't really make tons of sense to me. So this is a bit of a pain point. That being said, there are some other positive things. So one thing I really did like is the fact that the TTC has moved away, as many of you probably know, from their traditional map to a more vertical style map with the streetcar routes on it. Now, people have complained, as they do with the TTC, that they've kind of put streetcar routes on there, and why are you putting streetcar routes on, why not bus routes? I think that's kind of a silly question because streetcar routes require significant infrastructure. They run frequently, many of them run 24 hours a day, they're high capacity, they're relatively fast compared to buses. So having those on there actually makes a lot of sense, I think. Perhaps when we have things like the Downtown Relief Line and GO lines showing up on the TTC map, then it won't make as much sense to show that, since they're non-segregated lines, they're running in traffic for the most part. But on a map that's pretty sparse right now, I think it makes a lot of sense. Of course, it also makes sense because, as I and others have pointed out in the past, Eglinton and Eglinton West are misaligned on the current Toronto Rocket maps, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think this new wayfinding push is part of a plan to kind of make things more New York or London style, where you have maybe a single strip map, as we're starting to see on the Line 2 trains fantastically. You'll have those strip maps over doors that kind of tells you where you are on the line, and I'm hoping somehow the Toronto Rocket trains will be modified such that, of course, we can have those LED strip maps. But you'll know where you are on the line by looking at the strip map, and then by looking at the system maps, which there are tons of. There's most subway cars on Line 1 seem to have like 3 or 4 of them. By looking at those system maps, you can figure out where you are in the system. And we need that because with Eglinton, Finch coming online, the subway map starts to actually look congested in its current form, especially since a lot of the stations are quite tightly spaced on those lines. Another very nice thing, and this is one of those small things that I'm happy to see the TTC is starting to do, is that they actually put up Viva, My Way, as well as parking and bathrooms. But they have little indicators next to the stations on the map, much as they did on the strip maps that they have on the current TTC maps. Next to the like traditional whole system map, they actually have the indicators on there, and that's kind of like a precursor to actually showing the lines for like Go or something on there. So it's nice that they actually at least show that Go is a transfer point. Now what they need to do is update the automated announcements so that they're in line with almost every other city, and say that you can change to a Go train, not just having those announcements at stations like Bloor Yonge where you can change to another subway line, but saying, oh, you can change to X streetcar line at this station. Oh, you can change to the Go train at this station. Oh, you can change to the Up at this station. The whole fact that the TTC operates as if none of these other agencies exists to a degree really frustrates me, and I think that better integrating these systems is key. Even if fair integration isn't fully there yet, it doesn't mean we should wait to integrate systems in terms of wayfinding. Anyways, I think that's my thoughts. As always, if you liked what you heard, share out the video and like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.